Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. It's Thursday the 29th of October. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Rough, Tam Cowan and Steven Naismith here with me in the studio. Absolutely delighted to have your company. You can like, share and follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button. Simple as that. We've got lots to talk about. Europa League. It's only about a couple of hours away before Celtic kick off against Lille, and we'll also preview the game for Rangers as well. We'll get your thoughts on how you think they are going to fare at home to Lech Poznan 2. So, as well as the British clubs involved in European action, we'll look back over the Champions League and deal with most of the news emerging today, all in the company of our three esteemed gentlemen. We start on a rather sad note, it has to be said, because I read in the papers the sad passing of David Syme, former Scottish referee. Sadly lost his battle with cancer at the age of 76. I'd like to pass on behalf of the Football Show our condolences to David Syme's family and friends. There was a lovely tribute from his friend and fellow referee Brian McGinley today in most of the papers. But I thought the best bit of advice that David Syme said he received, Roughie, was don't let your hearing be sharper than your eyesight. That came from Tiny Wharton, the famous old referee, and I thought that was very apt for a man who'd refereed 19 old firm games. You know, the crowd can sway you, but try and decide on what you're looking at.
Yeah, I think we debate it all the time when there's massive games, you know, how much influence the fans have and referees making decisions, particularly in the box. I think we all can imagine, you know, if you're in that circumstance, and obviously VAR coming in should help the referees a lot easier. But in their day, I can imagine 50, 60,000 shouting penalty. You would have to be very, very strong to sort of, if you thought it was, you know, what way you're going to go. So, you know, it's a hard enough job as it is.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing about it, Tam, and I'm going to get Stephen's thoughts on it as well, but it was a time where there was a fair bit of banter that could go on between referees. Some people say that art is lost between the player and the referee, but you could, round about that time, with Brian McGinley, David Syme, Kenny Hope as well, Hugh Dallas, all of those referees from a bygone era could have a bit of banter.
Well, the bottom line is, Peter, they weren't under the same scrutiny as they are now. The referees now, I'm sure, would be up for a bit of banter. I've had a couple of personal dealings with Bobby Madden. I think when Bobby's out on the pitch, he's a very, very good ref. And if the Blazers allowed it, who sit up in the main stand watching the referees every move, I think Bobby would love to indulge in a wee laugh, a joke, and a carry on with the players. But it's difficult now. And, you know, things were so relaxed. What you have to remember, Peter, in Davy Syme's day, that was the era when there was no issue made of the fact that when the games were televised, be it live games or highlights, they quite casually put in brackets below the referee's name where exactly they lived, which seems absolute bonkers in terms of... You remember that, though, you know, but in terms of playing into the hands of the Bampots, always remember, you know, like Willie Young, brackets Clarkston, everybody remembers Hugh Dallas, brackets Bonkle, you know. But, you know, that would just be unthinkable now, with the unhinged mobs that plague Twitter and all other forms of social media in the football forum. So, yeah, it seemed as if it was a bit more relaxed then, and the referees just got on with it. But I thought Davy Syme, good old school referee, like some of the guys you mentioned, the Bob Valentines of this world, the Brian McGinleys, and so I offer my condolences to his family.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Stevie, can you have banter with some referees?
You can. It's still there. It's a bit less now than it was when I started out. I think as much as I hated him as a referee when I was at Everton, there was a game, we were playing Man City and we should have had a penalty, and John Moss was the referee, and we didn't get the penalty, so I'm, as you do, abusing him, and he's just turned round quickly and he just looked at me and he's like, "You need to calm down today just because you're starting," and just killed me with one line. So that was neat, to be fair. It went up my estimations after that, but it was tremendous. But it's not, it makes it more enjoyable.
Well, absolutely.
What was the name of that referee, Stevie? What was the name of him?
Moss.
Right, good. John Moss. I'm going to form the John Moss fan club because I hate all these folk that think that because Steven Naismith does all his charity work, which he gets his PR team to tell everybody about. He thinks that we're not allowed to have a go at Stevie for being an annoying calf on the park. So John Moss rules. Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing about it is, Tam, when Stevie was explaining there that he was going up to abuse the referee, not something that anybody in Scotland needs to actually know, because it's
exactly.
a given, by the way. He's one of the finest. You're the finest referee I've ever encountered, Stevie.
Just assistant.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to guide him in case he's missed something. Anyway, Hugh Scott says Naisy doesn't banter with the referees; he chips away at them, and I think that's possibly the best way to look at it. Well done to you, Hugh, for pointing that out. There's a whole few in here who are talking about that. So lots of people messaging us. Patrick Drum is out there in Belfast. Patrick, great to have you on. And Eddie Thorne says, any thoughts on the Dundee United financial situation? Eddie, we are indeed going to discuss that as well as the European fixtures. But I just thought we'd start off with that. Just out of curiosity, Roughie, I don't know if you're aware of it, when the shop opens up in a couple of weeks' time, it's looking good in a frame. It's looking good in a frame, Roughie, isn't it? I mean, if there's such a thing. I mean, I think that looks magnificent. You're in the Legends series, Roughie. That's all I'm saying.
Can't beat it. I take it that's the only one you've got. That'll be it. Once it's gone.
Well, you do, to be fair, I don't want a backlog of 300 frames and nobody's bought them. As simple as that, Roughie. Anyway, let's crack on. Celtic, Rangers, Europa League. Celtic, obviously, with the earlier kickoff at 5:55. I think everybody knows there's a mountain to climb, and Neil Lennon certainly has taken the heat off the players by having a real swipe at the people in the media and some Celtic fans who've been calling for his head. As far as the dressing room is concerned, Albion Ayeti says inside the dressing room, there's a feel-good factor.
But this is football. You can't go always good. Sometimes you win and lose games. This is part of football, and we're professional enough to handle that. We know that. Every game is important for us, and I think we have a very good atmosphere in the dressing room. We are very in a good mood.
Yeah, Stephen, it's always the case. If you lose a few games, and you've been there yourself, if you lose a few games and a manager suddenly comes under pressure, the classic line is the manager's lost the dressing room, players have been fighting with each other. All of these stories just start to leak out, some of them mischievous, and then some people obviously need a little cuddle to try and boost their confidence.
They do, and there's no bigger place to be than the Old Firm when it's like that. This last week and this week's arguably the manager's toughest time as being the Celtic manager. But all the media and the press build up and comment won't distract the players that much. It'll be more the mistakes they're making on the pitch that'll be in their mind. They'll be going into tonight's game thinking, hopefully I don't make a mistake. It'll not be about what an ex-pros said or anything like that.
Yeah, and the strange thing about it, Tam, is if you were looking for a confidence builder, the last place you want to go is France to face Lille. I mean, they absolutely demolished Sparta Prague, and they'll be a formidable opponent for Celtic.
Well, I mean, I can't claim to be au fait with French football, Peter, but the minute I read this morning that Lille were level bevels with PSG, the mighty PSG, then that tells you, I think, all you need to know about their pedigree. So I just wonder, though, if Celtic could getting into a game now as underdogs, where maybe there's not as much pressure on them as there may have been in recent weeks. But I do think it's absolutely bonkers, the pressure that apparently Neil Lennon is under. I mean, if he wins his game in hand, he's 3 points behind Rangers. Here we are, we're only in October, for goodness sake. And I think a lot of folks seem to forget, maybe even spoiled Celtic fans, who have indeed been spoiled rotten in recent years, that Celtic are 2 games away from a quadruple treble. I mean, it seems quite incredible. I think as well, even I must admit, even a Rangers fan Sadly, he lives in Motherwood. Love to think he supported the mighty well, but pally mine Andy, who's a big Rangers fan, the only thing he seems to love more than Rangers is a bet. Anytime I see Andy, it's invariably in the good old days at Ayr races or Perth races or through at Musselburgh, and even he has been tempted by the odds available now for the title this season, because Rangers suddenly find themselves odds on, and Celtic, I think, have been pushed out to 17 to 10, which suddenly seems a huge price for him that likes a wee tickle. So I wouldn't be panicking now if I was a Celtic fan. I think there's been a wee bit of a knee-jerk reaction simply because of the embarrassment of riches in recent years, trophy after trophy after trophy. This is the first serious wee blip they've had, and Rangers unquestionably look good. They look a million miles for the team, for the club that they were just a couple of short years ago. So I can understand why there'd be a wobble, but I think it's far too early to call for Neil Lennon's head. I think that's crazy talk.
Yeah, okay. We'll try and bring you the team. Obviously, it's a live broadcast as ever, Monday to Friday. So if we get the Celtic team before we go off air, we'll bring you the team. Nevertheless, Edouard and Beaton travelled with the squad, which I presume will be a huge bonus for the manager if he calls on them at some point in the game. I Roughie, can't see them getting anything from it. I think they will lose, maybe by a couple of goals. What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to stick in there. I think the players have got something to do for the manager. 9 times out of 10, when you get a group of players who see their manager, who they like, getting a bit of stick, they group together, and there's a siege mentality. I think they're not going to win the game, but I can see them getting a draw, but it all depends on the performance and if they cut out the mistakes that they made at the weekend. At the weekend there, Aberdeen got 3 goals. 2 were penalties and 1 was just one that hit off the guy's knee and went in there. So, if they can stop making these mistakes or getting these bits of misfortune, then you never know. But I'm going to stick in. I'm going to stick in for a 1 each.
Yeah, okay. Stephen Cross says, Lille will rip Duffy and co to shreds. It could be a hide behind the couch night. So clearly Stephen showing off there, telling us he's got a couch. He thinks... he thinks they're going to get battered. Tam, I'm not even going to go to you because you're a 0-0 specialist. There is absolutely no point in going to you.
I don't feel. I don't imagine I'll be hiding behind my chaise lounge this evening, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, I think you know what the thing. I'm just glad that I'm still alive to watch this game tonight, because I feared I may have dropped dead with shock earlier in the week when Kenny Dalglish, the former Celtic player, manager, chief executive and director of golf at the club, when Kenny backed Neil Lennon, and when Alec McLeish, the former Rangers manager, said that Rangers will win the title. What a superb bit of media that was that day, What a waste of everyone's time, It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. Almost as incredible as Neil Lennon claiming that Chris Common said something of interest the other day.
Well,
wonders will never cease.
Stephen, this is amazing hypocrisy from Cowan, because if he had been offered the money to turn up at Hampden Park, those 2 were offered. Tam would have been up there at Hampden giving it. I think both of them have a chance to win the league.
I would have gone for a friendly scoring draw and said the 2 clubs are a credit to Glasgow and Scotland. And of course, it's on Premier Sports. You need to remember that if for example, any of the games that are on this weekend, if it was Sky Sports that was covering them, they would focus totally on Celtic, even if it's the Hearts Hibs game we're talking about. That is the way of Sky these days.
No, don't knock it. They offered an apology on it, and I think Dave Cormack was happy to accept it, to be perfectly honest with you. The fact
Peter, Peter, they got maternity coverage for Hayley McQueen. The gig isn't open. You don't need to soak in with them, all right?
No, I've been there. I was there for 3 years. I know exactly what the drill is. The fact that the Hearts-Hibs semi-final is opening up with a Lee Griffiths goals montage is neither here nor there, Stephen. You're just going to have to suck it up, to be perfectly honest with you. What about Lille? I mean, listen, if you're up there with PSG, you know, I mean, we all look and we only look at the stats on it, and occasionally you'll get some boffin who watches French football regularly. But sometimes I think you can only deal with guesswork, stats, history of what they've done in Europe before, and maybe a number of players that you might know that you can then offer a solid opinion on it. So lots of people are thinking Celtic have got their work cut out, Stevie.
No, and I agree. It's Celtic are at their lowest point over the last 4 or 5 years, and they're coming up against a team that are full of confidence. They're actually a young-ish team with a lot of kind of prospects. So I think that excitement for them to be back in Europe and playing in Europe, and Celtic being fragile, it could be a tough night. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to Rangers. We'll bring you that Celtic team if we get it. Let's move on to Rangers, because if there's a bit of unrest in the Celtic camp, there's no unrest in the Rangers camp. There's a feel-good factor here. Jermaine Defoe is back available as well, and even their new man, Bongani Zungu, has been talking about the fact that he is just desperate to pull on the shirt and play for his idol, who is, of course, Steven Gerrard.
It means a lot to me, to play for such a huge club, a club with rich history. When I was a young boy growing up in South Africa, my dad used to speak of Rangers, and to be here today, I feel very proud and I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, so it was almost as if it was the same speech you used when you signed for Rangers, Stephen. Very, very similar, to be perfectly honest with you. Here's a boy who will know Steven Gerrard because he'll have seen him on countless occasions. The English Premier League is beamed all across the world. I don't know too much about him and how good a player he is, but it's certainly a real bonus for Steven Gerrard to be able to count on another player to that squad.
That's it. He's got a squad that's fully fit, and the competition is incredible. I think you just look over the last week, everybody was saying about Marella as being the main man, and Defoe and Roof have come up with 2 unbelievable goals. The midfield's looking very strong, and in defence, again, centre-half, they've got 3 competitive, arguably 4 competitive centre-halves, so things at Rangers couldn't be going any better, but it can change very quickly. I think they just need to ride the momentum they're on. The manager's been very good in the last month or so, picking 1 or 2 players out the team at certain points, freshens things up, but he doesn't lose that fundamental attitude that he has instilled in them. So I think tonight will be a case of the same again.
Yeah, well, they sit 10th in the Polish league. They've only had 2 wins in the last 10, so I don't think their form's any great shakes. Just out of curiosity, Stephen, you mentioned Kemar Roof there. Have you ever scored in your career from the halfway line?
No, and I wouldn't even attempt it. I don't think I could kick the ball for the halfway line. And that's it, honestly.
Because, as you know, we had Big Shyness on yesterday, and of course he scored more than a
He's
few.
done it more than once.
He's done it. Charlie was going through his whole back catalogue of how many times he's hit it from the halfway line. I was just wondering if it was maybe.
But his attempts to his succession ratio is very low compared to Roof's, I think.
Yeah, although to be fair, I was a wee bit worried when he hit his first diagonal against the Jambos, and I thought, he means business here, and when he scored that goal and started giving you all pelters, on the bench, I thought we are in for a game here, but it didn't work out that way. Anyway, apart from anything else, let's find out about Lech Poznan.
Rangers aim to continue their stunning start to the season as they take on Lech Poznan in the second Europa League group game tonight. Opponents Lech Poznan were formed 98 years ago in central Poland and play at the Stadion Miejski. They're managed by Dariusz Zurau, a former defender, once of Hanover. They've lifted 7 league titles and 5 Polish Cups across their history, with their most successful spell coming in the late 80s. Look out for number 9, Mikel Ishak, who scored 9 goals in 12 games so far this campaign, and midfielder Jakub Moder, who's on loan from Brighton. Lech finished second last season, putting them through to the qualifiers, where they knocked out 4 different teams and only conceded once. However, life in the groups has not been so kind. They were beaten 4-2 by Benfica last week. Their form has dipped, winning none of their last 3 games, which has seen them slide to 10th in their domestic table. Everything is going right for Steven Gerrard at the moment, and he has a great chance to move on to 6 points out of 6 tonight.
Yeah, Gordon McFadden says, I fancy a couple for Morelos tonight to get his form going again. How do you see it going, Roughie?
Yeah, I think the stats there, everybody's spoken about, this isn't a team that's on form, beaten 4-2 at home, confidence can't be high. As Stevie said there, Rangers aren't losing goals, particularly in Europe, and they've got strikers who are scoring them. So I would expect Rangers to win possibly 2 or 3-0 tonight.
Stevie?
I'm much the same. I think it'll be a comfortable win. When I said about the players competitive and all wanting to be in the team, so it's another opportunity for the boys at start to kind of stake a claim to be undroppable to the manager.
Yeah, Alistair Young says it's a Rangers win. Art Monty says 3-1 to Rangers. And Kevin McManus, who I don't think is a Rangers fan, says away win at Ibrox tonight. So conflicting ones, but we like to read them all out for a noise up, Tam, because we do like a noise up on this show.
Yeah, I'm obviously going to stick with my 2 bets on 0-0. You're always winning until somebody scores, but I could be persuaded otherwise tonight, because I think Rangers do look very comfortable now. They seem to have a settled team. No matter which team they put on the pitch, Peter, they always seem to have an embarrassment of riches on the bench, and everything seems to be clicking into place, which is maybe what is causing most of the consternation from Celtic fans, rather than just how Celtic are playing and what Neil Lennon's doing. Celtic fans are obviously very aware of that Rangers are a wee bit of a force now, so it'd be hard. I think you'd be. I'd be doing well to get a 0-0 tonight. I think Rangers maybe could coast it. In fact, maybe a wee 3. But I'm still going to bet my 0-0. I'm sticking with it, Peter, until it comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. Roughie, I don't know if you're in quarantine on level 4. Are you feeling okay? I know you've managed to cough through the opening 12 minutes of the programme, which is really worrying all of us.
No, okay? It's just a dry throat. That's why I have a wee drink there, just to sort of warm room this,
You know what I like? I'm worried about you. And some people on the podcast are holding on to 4:30 when they can hear the chinkle of the ice as you start to drink your first gin and tonic. Anyway, let's find out what both managers think of their ties tonight.
Thanks, Peter. Rangers look to continue their stunning start to the campaign in the Europa League here at Ibrox this evening against Lech Poznan. The Gers are, of course, undefeated all season. They've won their last 7 in a row. They have a great chance to move to 6 points in the group against Polish opposition, who were beaten resoundingly by Benfica last week and haven't won in any of their last 3 matches. Here's what manager Steven Gerrard makes of the fixture.
To go to Liège and try and take maximum points. I think we delivered that performance. And, you're always got to try and look to take maximum points in your home games. But, it's still going to be a right good challenge tomorrow. A good team are coming in, an aggressive team coming forward with quality players. So we have to make sure that the game plan's executed really well tomorrow if we are to have any idea to get into 6 points.
The Gers are nearly fully fit, except fullback Borna Barisic, who is still a doubt. They can finally call on midfield loanee Bogani Zungu, who is available after completing his isolation. It'll also be interesting to see who starts up front. Well, Kemar Roofe and Jermaine Defoe both scored stunning goals last week. Moving on, Celtic's task is once again very different. They face the in-form Lille, who are joint top of the group, and also the French League. They've not been beaten since February. Hoops boss Neil Lennon was fiery in the defence of himself and his players through the week, and considering they've not won any of their last 3 matches, it's a huge week for the club.
I mean, I think that goes without question. You want to win your home games, and obviously we dropped points last week. So can we rebound? Can we bounce back in the group? I think it's a great group. I think it's a great test for us. I thought there was a lot of encouragement second half against Milan, where we took the game to them. And I'm looking for more to see them tomorrow. So
Rangers look to cement their place at the top of their group, while Celtic are aiming just to stay alive.
Yeah, you can give us your thoughts on who you think is going to win that on our feed on Facebook. You can like, share and follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as ever, we are also out there live on Twitter on this programme Monday to Friday. So here's a look at what's happening as far as the other British teams in the Europa League. Which one will get your attention tonight if you're going to watch them, as well as Rangers and Celtic. We'll get AEK Athens against Leicester, Antwerp against Tottenham, and also Arsenal against Dundalk. So that's how it looks in the Europa League. We're also going to hear from the Dundee United manager. We'll hear from Steven Naismith on that semi-final as well, which is really exciting. And you can give us your thoughts, who's going to go through in the two Scottish Cup semi-finals. I'm looking at Dundee United, and before we hear from Mickey Mellon, the story was coming out, Roughie, that United, like a number of clubs, are talking to their players about wage cuts because they can't get fans in, and they're going to have to try and balance the books.
Yeah, I think this will just be the start, Peter. I think all the clubs will be sitting down probably this month. I would hazard a guess that most clubs have budgeted for fans being in the stadiums October, November. We now know that isn't the case, so you have to go back to the drawing board and see where you are financial. And Dundee United weren't in particular financial state at the end of last season. If I remember correctly, there were quite a lot of money in debt. So obviously they brought in some players, which is a problem. Stevie might be better to talk about this one, you know, when a club asks you to take a cut in wages and all of a sudden there's a couple of players who have come in who are on particularly good wages, probably better wages than some of the players that are there already. So you've got a bit of dilemma in your hand trying to convince the present players, you know, to take a cut, while as the financial state of what the club themselves, what they've been paying out, you know. So, but I don't think I think it's going to be more than Dundee United. There's going to be a lot of clubs. I think you'll hear that coming from a lot of clubs, meeting the players and having a chat and just explaining to them, no fans in, you know, and it's a difficult time for every club, and it just depends which way the players go. I mean, I think the Players' Union will have a lot of work to do in the next month or two. So it's a horrible, horrible situation, but it has to be dealt with.
I don't believe for a minute, Steven Naismith, that the Dundee United board will be able to go to some players and ask them to take a wage cut while other players won't. And Dundee United have dismissed that out of hand as nonsense. They say that they will be talking to the players, like many clubs have started to before them, about wage cuts because of the current financial situation. The only thing that doesn't sit well with me, Stephen, is you can't have a Dundee United owner asking for government help to bail them out if they're paying, you know, some hefty wages to some players that they've signed recently.
Yeah, I think first of all, it's a moving thing. There's not an end point, which is the hardest part for clubs. The one thing I would say is, though, right at the start, could the club not have had some sort of thing in place that if they get to this point, they've got some sort of agreement? Because like the reports, whether there's some players or loan players that have come in, they've spent the money on their loan players. If then they're going back to the guys who have worked so hard for them over the years to get them back to the Premier League, and putting pressure on them to save jobs and help the club out in this situation is very, very tricky. Yes, it's a pandemic. We've experienced at Hearts that you do, as we did as a squad, end up taking cuts and doing what you can, but when it's kind of thrown on you late in the day, and I'd imagine they'll be wanting a kind of quick turnaround, is going to be hard to get any general consensus with everybody.
Yeah, and the other thing about it, Tam, which is going to be very difficult, is trying to allay the fears of some players who will have read the headlines and said, well, wait a minute, you know, you get guys like Mark McNulty could be on supposedly £4,000, £5,000 a week. Lawrence Shanklin's on a hefty fee to come in there. And then all of a sudden, the players realise the situation, but they're all looking at the different stories that are coming out and thinking, who do we believe here?
Absolutely. It's going to hit a lot of clubs, Peter. I mean, if we start almost right at the top with Celtic, in the same week that it was reported that they've taken a £10 million hit due to COVID, it's been well documented because his performances on the pitch, that Celtic are picking up something like 40 grand a week tab for Shane Duffy. And, that's vast sums of money for a club that's not getting any fans through the gate, getting any hospitality. As far as it goes with Dundee United, I think there's about a good news and bad news for Dundee United. The bad news is that even if they were allowed to get a reduced crowd in at Tannadice, and there's been some talk of that this week, looking ahead to, I think, November the 6th, about getting a reduced crowd in. But the thing is, Peter, that the clubs need to remember, if you get a reduced crowd in, I'm guessing that almost morally, the people that you would have to invite in to be the reduced crowd are your season ticket holders. And the bottom line is the season ticket holders have already paid up front for this season. That money's in the bank. That money may already have been spent. And if you get your season ticket holders in there as a crowd, that reduced crowd is still going to require staff to be paid, stewards to be paid, a wee bit of security, perhaps a police bill. So the clubs are going to be further out of pocket, you could argue. Flip side of that, the good news I would maybe say, I was reading reports that Dundee United maybe fear fans asking for money back because they have paid out in advance for this season and they've not been able to get to any games. I do think, and there have been examples of this in the recent past, your season ticket holders are your diehards. Their season ticket is really their badge of honour. I think, by and large, a lot of fans don't want refunds if they know the club is in desperate need of the money. So there's a couple of ways to look at this, but it does look grim. But as I think Roughie said at the very start of this discussion, Peter, there will be other clubs in exactly the same boat now, and it might just be that the Dundee United story was kind of made public first. Clubs must be really, really struggling just now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm waiting to see how this all pans out. Here's what Mickey Mellon and Mark Reynolds had to say about the issue today.
Football is all about fans. It revolves around the fans coming to the games. That's how we can be professional. So we understood, quite common sense would tell you that the longer the fans stayed away, the less and less money is going into the football clubs.
Everybody's kind of on board with it. I don't think there's no great rush, there's no great hassle. We're kind of, it is what it is. And over and above that, I think other teams are already in not a worse position, but have already crossed this bridge that we are now being asked to cross. Other teams have been asked to take deferrals, to take whatever it is, and they've all came to these agreements, and that's all been done away behind closed doors, and they've come to agreements to help at the benefit of the club.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see, Roughie, why there should be any. I can see the heat on Dundee United if they're saying to some players take a wage cut and others not. I can't believe that's going to happen, I'll be honest with you. But I don't think they should be getting pilloried for facing up to the financial situation here. In fact, I'll take one other little point on this, Roughie. I have an issue on the basis that a lot of fans, as Tam mentioned there, will take issue with your spending and signing players when really you have to work within your budget. And I think that rankles with them as well. But Dundee United are like every other club.
Yeah, but it just depends on what way your board has went when this all kicked in, and I think the advice that everybody got early doors, whether rightly or wrongly, was that fans were going to be allowed back in sometime in October. Now, if you're sitting there as a board and somebody throws that at you, you're going to say, right, here is our budget. Are we going to buy into that? Because if we don't buy into it, if we do overspend and we come to October and there's no fans getting in, we're in deep trouble. And a lot of clubs have done that. There are clubs who've spent more money than others for whatever reason, and they could be the ones that are in trouble.
Yeah, it's always good. This is the reason why I love this program being live is if you're listening to it, you get all sorts of madness in the background because we can hear Tam's dog. There's Tam's dog barking. And,
no, it's not mine.
It's not yours.
It's not mine.
Oh, is it yours?
No.
I don't have a dog.
Stevie's? Is Stevie's dog's?
I don't know.
Somebody's breaking in. That's the only reason Stevie's dog ever barks. So that's the
there's only one of us. There's only one of us in this programme that would need a guard dog. I think we know whose that is.
Yes. So there's that, and then there's the other thing, which I don't think you notice. I love picking up on these things, and the amount of people it's driving them insane. Roughie, in Cumbernauld, is there an earthquake that eventually just moves every one of the frames in your house at a 90-degree angle? That would drive me absolutely bonkers.
Let me try and straighten this one.
Look, it's you haven't put it up right. It's a shocker.
The nails take all the way along.
It fell off.
There you go.
That's better. That's better.
Don't bother putting it back up.
I'll just sit wait now.
No, don't. It's okay. The amount of people are saying, is there any chance?
I'll fix it.
I'll
change it. I'll change the background for tomorrow. I'll put new stuff up. I'll put some
directly through that wall is Roughie's boudoir, so I don't think the picture's stand a chance.
Exactly. There's a story for another day. Listen, it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out with Dundee United and others, because the clock is ticking. And as Tam said there is a financial situation and an obligation to season ticket holders, but the financial situation of getting 750 or 1,000 in is certainly not going to help many clubs. If anything, I think it's just this precursor to trying to force the government to let more and more in. I think there's even a suggestion, Steven Naismith, of Manchester United getting 23,000 into Old Trafford.
Yeah, I think, see, the thing with the football fans and that is, I think they see other countries in Europe having 10,000 fans. I've watched a few games that I've had, I'm sure it was about 10,000 fans. The Super Cup had, I think it was 20,000. So they see these and kind of look, why can't we do it? But unfortunately for us, we're not in that situation. But I agree with Tam. I think it's going to just cost clubs money in the short term with having small amounts in.
St Mirren have been hit with disciplinary proceedings for their COVID issues, and the club have put out a tweet saying they will defend it robustly. So we're in this difficult situation now where, when you get a number of players who've been infected and then it just keeps going and keeps going, and St Mirren have missed 2 games already. I'm not quite sure, unless the SPFL have evidence that they haven't been following the protocol here. So we'll wait to see how that story develops. But that's just come out in the last couple of seconds. To the semi-finals, really looking forward to them. Celtic Aberdeen is one, but the Hibs Hearts is a fantastic one. Isn't it amazing, Tam? Hibs, with some bookmakers, are not the favourites for this. It's Hearts who are the favourites.
You know what, Peter? I was going to ask for clarification on that. I thought I'd heard that myself, and I assumed that I was hearing things, frankly. As you know, I like a wee wager, so no harm to Stevie, but if Hibs are indeed second favourites going into that game, then I'll certainly have a few quid on Jack Ross's men just for a wee bit of an interest. I did find that very, very strange. I'm fascinated to see how it's going to pan out, if it is going to look like a Hibs Hearts game, if it is going to look like an Edinburgh derby that is a semi-final, the very fact we're not going to have a crowd there. But you're always looking, Peter, I think only so far, the only way you've been able to almost trick your mind into thinking the football is the same as it's always been, and almost imagine that there is a crowd in there when there's a wee moment of magic. And if you go back to Kemar Roof with his spectacular goal the other week, for that wee minute, for that wee spell, then the Rangers fans, certainly first and foremost watching that, would forget that there was no fans there to cheer it. They would just enjoy that moment of magic before reality struck again and you saw the big empty stands all the way around. Ditto the Jermaine Defoe goal. And even when I was sitting watching the pictures coming in, when I'd finished my radio show on Saturday of Motherwell Ross County, Motherwell looked very, very tidy. And when with the odd wee flash of brilliance, primarily for Tony Watt, who's looking really, really good, then yeah, you could forget that you were watching a game that wasn't being watched by any supporters inside the ground. But the Edinburgh derby on that note, absolutely fascinates me. No harm to the Jambos or indeed Steven Naismith, but if those odds are indeed correct, Peter, my cash will be on the Easter roadside.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one in the whole group, Roughie, who's tipping the Jambos to win in this one, because it's just a Hibs win for everybody on it. Alistair Young says Hibs will win it by 2-0. Danny Kelly says it'll be a Hibs Celtic final, and Art Monty says it's going to be a Hibs Aberdeen final. And Kevin McManus says Hibs are favourites, but I fancy Hearts to win. So there's all sorts of different permutations on this one. Everybody's 2-1 the Jambos, says Andrew Ellis. I just managed to get that out there. Now, here's Stevie. You look at the sides, and I can understand why it's so tight to call this one, because you are effectively, with the players that you've signed, I include yourself in this, you're a team that should be in the Premier League. I don't want to go back over old ground on it, but you certainly get the strength to be able to make this a real contest.
We do. I would argue that we're stronger this season than the way we were last season. With the players and the ability we've got. Craigie Gordon coming in, I'd argue, is the best signing of the summer for us. We firmly believe it. We've had a good long pre-season, loads of games. We've started the season well, and everybody's confident. We've got a squad that's competitive, and with it being a derby, I think that takes a slight part away from it being a Premier League team against a Championship team. I've played in so many derbies that it is literally down to who wants it more, who's up for it more. It's not about the actual raw ability of the players in the team. So, no, we're confident. We've had that confidence since we came back, and we started the league well. And this has been a game that we've kind of been looking forward to. I mean, the boys that have come in, 2 games and you could win a cup final, so what an opportunity it is.
Yeah, and just on that point, Stephen, I was going to ask you this. Lots of people are actually messaging non-stop and they're saying, are you fit? I think this is where they're like Tam, they're thinking to themselves, we've got a wee bit of money, we're thinking about putting it on the Jambos, we all want to know, are you fit to play and referee the match?
I'm fit, yeah. I've had a good couple of weeks training, and we've had a bounce game during the week and that as well. So, yeah, like I said there, the competition in the squad's very good. We've started well, so if I play any part, I'll be looking forward to it, and hopefully I can referee the game well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the great noise up about it, Tam. Though I mean, that's the joy of it. And another thing, Tam, is, as you know, and you'll know it from Motherwell against Celtic when Colin O'Neill hit that absolute raker. Just that semi-final to know you're going to Hampden, and as Stevie says, you're 2 games away from winning a medal.
Absolutely, and the great thing when the new Scottish Cup campaign kicks off after this final, I know we're all playing catch up now. I thought the brilliant news this week, Peter, that replays have been scrapped, because you used to get that thing in the Scottish Cup. We've had it for years and years and years, where managers were happy. Oh, that's a hard place to go to. We're delighted to get them back to our own patch, blah, 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 blah. Suddenly, a lot of games earlier in the competition might have the same excitement as a good old semi-final. So I think that was a great move this year. And, I think for any Hearts fans out there, it's a nice wee insurance policy. You could, with Hibs being such attractive odds as certainly in league placings, the bigger team, as things stand now, stick some money on Hibs, and if you get beat, if you're a Jambo and you do get beat, then at least you've got a wee bit of cash in your pocket. And if Hearts win, of course, you're delighted to be into the final. And it was Stevie who, just before we came on air, put that idea in my head. He says, but keep it quiet. He's going to put a couple of grand on Hibs. So, is that, did they change that rule? Is that allowed now? Yes.
No. It's still not allowed.
I'd love to go into the bookies with you on a Saturday, Tam, and see how the selections you put on under that theory. I don't want them to win, so at least I've got a bit of money in my pocket. If they
No, my only fear, honestly, Roughie, you can ask any of my pals, they would back me up in this. And all the years that I've enjoyed a bet, and all the years that I had 6 greyhounds at one point that I ran down at Shawfield Dogs, I never ever backed a favourite. I didn't see a backing a favourite as a value bet. When it comes to the horses, for example, Roughie, I like a good each way bet and something with a wee bit of value. I never ever back a favourite, and I'm always the same when I look at a football match. I look for a wee bit of value, and Hibs, now that you've clarified that, and I knew I wasn't getting off my head, Peter, Hibs are really, there's a red light there that's flashing towards me to get the cash on them at the bookies.
And as I always mention to everyone who watches the programme, remember and gamble responsibly and don't go over the score with it. I can give you the Celtic starting 11. Bain, Duffy, Brown, Ayeti, Christie, Ncham, Elyounoussi, Frimpong, Ayer, McGregor and Laxalt. So he's sticking Roughie with Shane Duffy in there. He's had a word with him, as a one-to-one as managers do. He's hoping he can ride out the storm.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be a bit disappointed in that, that he hasn't had a couple new faces in there, to freshen things up a wee bit. He's standing by the players that haven't done particularly well. So for me, it's a big ask for the players, to stand up and help the manager out of the predicament they're in. So let's wait and see what happens tonight.
Yeah, Alan Moffat Patterson, I love people with a triple name, says, Stephen, please don't get sent off and Hearts will win. So there you are. That's what I call unbridled confidence in not only your ability, but your disciplinary problems. So it's going to be a cracker. As far as people being in one team in one league and one in the other, Hearts manager Robbie Nielsen says it won't make a blind bit of difference.
I think when you come into a derby, it doesn't matter what the bookies say or where you are sitting in the league, or if you're in the same league. It's it's two teams that are competing, two teams that are pretty evenly matched, that are going to go toe to toe. So I think there's pressure on both sides.
Yeah, do you agree with that, Tam?
Yeah, I'm just laughing there. I'm sure Steven Naismith has noticed it, but ever since Robbie Nielsen hung up his boots as a player and whatever he got to fix his teeth, that he continually whistles his letter S like the wee guy played by Ford Kiernan in Chewing the Fat. I'm sure Stevie, listen to any interview. Now that I've told you, listen to any interview with Robbie Nielsen, and every S, it's when you hear it once, it starts rattling you a wee bit, It's very funny.
Do you know what, Tom? You've now put the thought in his head. He's going to be sitting in that dressing room. Robbie Nielsen's going to walk in for the most important team talk of the season, and he's going to be giving and he's going to be bent over backwards. Anyway, apart from anything else, what about the Hibs camp? Because Jack Ross has been speaking today, and Jack Ross again is well aware of the fact that this is a really good opportunity for Hibs to get to the final and replicate what they've done just recently.
It's imminent. We are acutely aware of the prize at stake for us, and we entered this tournament in January wanting to win it, and we know that if we win Saturday we take ourselves another step closer to doing that. Cup competitions offer us a realistic and achievable chance of success. It's not easy to do, we know that, and the history shows that as well, but we've put ourselves in a good position in the Scottish Cup.
Yeah, okay. So when you look at the sides, Roughie, the one thing that I think is maybe, and it's difficult to call, I'm going to get your predictions now, not Stevie, because Stevie obviously is going to be there battling away for Hearts. But the reason why I think it's so tight and it's going to be such a great semi-final is because I've watched Hearts, I've watched the boy Ginnelly, Roberts. I think they've got wingers and they've got quality in the midfield, but they've got wingers and they've got strikers that can score goals. And I do think they've got one of the best keepers in the country. I still question why Celtic allowed Craig Gordon to go, Roughie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with anything you've said there. We've obviously played Hearts a couple of times at the beginning, and even then they were playing good, attractive football. The only way I'm going for Hibs. Obviously, I'm a past player, that would sway it a wee bit. But I just think Hibs have got Hibs. No, I just think that Hibs have played at a bigger level, a better level than Hearts have. And that's no Hearts' fault. You know, they've got Dundee and Arbroath. But for me, Hibs have played Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen, a different level, and they started a lot earlier than Hearts. But as everybody says, it's a derby game, you know, and anything can happen in a semi-final. We've seen it down the years, players getting sent off, silly decisions. So these things can happen. I just think Hibs at this moment in time are in the right place at the right time. They've got players playing at the top of their game. Their defence, handling, Porteous are pretty solid at the back and up front. They're scoring goals. And that's why I'm going to go for Hearts. Sorry, Hibs.
Yeah. That was a Freudian slip, wasn't it? Anyway, apart from anything else, Roughie, I switched off the minute you said, of course, I'm swaying because I was a former Hibs player. You know, that shouldn't cloud your issue. Any chance
but it does.
Pundits on
it
here?
Does.
What?
It does cloud your issue. Of course it does.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't.
It does.
It shouldn't.
I want Hibs and the Hibs supporters to enjoy themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can still look at two teams and assess it and then give an honest pundits. There are many pundits. Many pundits, Roughie.
I gave you two scenarios. I gave you one with my Hibs hat on, and I gave you one because that's why I think they'll win. I'm being truthful.
Yeah. Wow, Roughie and truthful.
And I can't believe it. And don't bring up the bitterness of no winning a Hibs derby. Hibs Hearts derby. That's no swaying me either.
Yeah, exactly. Tam, I'm going for the Jambos to win 2-1.
I'll go on historic scoreline in the past, the other way around, but I'm going 5-1 Hibs. And a red card in the 17th minute for Steven Naismith, who loses the rag, can't handle it, but then cleverly, as instructed by his PR team, as he walks off towards the touchline, he rips off his jersey, which we all think, a lot of players do that as if they're ripping off their jersey in disgust. But he's got the T-shirt below it with God Save the NHS on it, so that everybody says, doesn't he do a lot of great stuff for charity? And then it takes the heat off the red card. That's good. So I'm going to bet all of those things in the game. And remember where you heard it first.
Yeah. Listen, Stephen, the last one for you on this semi-final, for both Hibs and Hearts players, you mentioned there that it's about the derby is about who wants it more, because I think both teams are evenly matched because they've got quality in both sides. If there was a message you were delivering, if you had to deliver anything to them about semi-finals, you've been there before, that game before the ultimate, which is lifting the Scottish Cup.
Yeah, well, our squad have been to the last 3 semi-finals. This is our 4th in a row, so we've got that experience, but I would say that's more to do with the derby than a semi-final. So many times you played in derbies and the quality of the game's rubbish because there's that much nervousness around the game and players not want to make a mistake rather than want to be the winner. And it's arguably who's going to step up with a bit of quality that the guy spoke about earlier that's going to win you the game. I've got no doubts the game will be very tight. I think it'll be entertaining because it's 2 attacking teams. So I think everybody involved, whether it be us or Hibs, are sitting here right now thinking they can win the game and really looking forward to it. So I'm no different.
And if I could pinpoint just 2 elements for it, if you were looking at that Hibs side and thinking, he's a danger man, who would he be? And if you are in that Hearts team, apart from yourself, do you look and think, I'm glad he's in my team, he could win this for us?
Again, I think both teams think they have got match winners in their team. Hibs have shown this season. Nisbet started well. Deutsch and him have got a good partnership. Boyle's arguably been their main man for the last couple of years. And for us, we've got Boyce, who's a natural goal scorer. We've got, like you talked about, Craigie Gordon as an unbelievable goalkeeper. And we've got, I personally think we've got goals around our team, not just certainly the strikers. So that's what we've got in our locker.
Yeah, okay. On that point, just Stephen, there's one game you can comment on, which is Celtic Aberdeen. Who do you think you'll be facing in the final if Hearts win?
I'm going to say Celtic. I think they've had a very tough couple of weeks. I think them getting back in the game originally last weekend, and obviously it being a draw, I think that plays more in Celtic's hands than it does Aberdeen's. I think Aberdeen will be sitting there thinking it's a missed opportunity, and I think Celtic will have worked on that going into that game and knowing what Aberdeen to expect from Aberdeen.
Okay, interesting comments there. Don't forget you can like, share and follow us on our Facebook, and of course you can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We've got a fantastic competition running at the moment. We're giving away an iPad, we're giving away some classic Hall of Fame prints from our PLZ Soccer Hall of Fame, and we're giving away t-shirts, and we're also going to be giving away a dog as well in this one. Remember, a dog's not just for Christmas, it can guard your house too. But we're only giving away the iPad and the prints and the t-shirt at the moment. Here's a wee insight into how you can get your hands on it. You could win all these fantastic prizes by entering our competition. If you like what you see, you can share it with your friends, and you can follow us for all the latest breaking football news. Join the football family at PLZ Soccer on Facebook, and you could win all these fantastic prizes. Yeah, good luck with that competition. As I say every week, thank you to the countless amount of decent people who are offering their opinions on our Facebook. We did actually shut down the chat on our YouTube, but apologies to so many thousands and thousands of people who thoroughly like to put across some smart and intelligent points on the YouTube. On the Facebook, thankfully, we've got somebody who's going to police that and ban the odd lunatic on there as well. Because you do get them from time to time, but we're policing that as well. So keep that in mind when you're posting your messages or anything you want to talk to our pundits about. We always like to get an air of decency and an air of responsibility, Tam, especially in a week coming up where the president is going to be selected in America. We like to keep an even keel here on this programme.
Well, maybe whether next week, whether he wins or whether he is defeated, maybe in tribute to Donald Trump, we should have an indecent special on the football show where Peter, you just get a list of all the Bampots comments and you read them out. I think it would be just to expose them. Only the ones, remember, that use the real names. Because the ones who, under the cloak and dagger attempt of anonymity, then you ignore these clowns, But it's great that when I do a wee sift through some of the comments on Facebook, you get folk that absolutely love the show, they love their football, and they are the folk who deserve to have their voices heard. But maybe just one week, a wee Bampot special just for a giggle. I would go for that.
It would be absolutely sensational. Stevie, you'd need to wear boxing gloves as I read out some of the points that are fired in, because, as you know, and Michael Climby keeps saying to me, Peter, for God's sake, will you make a T-shirt that says, basically, this is not the show for you, which is a catchphrase, Roughie, that I started all those months ago when we actually got some of the nutcases on YouTube who, as Tam says, don't have a name and just spew out some bile. But I'm happy to say on Facebook, 99% of the people who put a lot of their points love their football, love their club, love Hearts and Hibs, and love the fact that we've got all these pundits and players giving us their opinion. There are the odd couple that I spot every now and then that we will get to you and ban you because of your incessant obsession with the Rangers and Celtic madness that goes on. But other than that, the Hearts and Hibs fans are looking forward to a good semi-final. All that remains for me to say is, Stevie, ahead of a semi-final, is it just a case of you do your training, you come in and you take it easy and watch one of the games tonight?
Yeah, I think that's life in general at the moment. But you try and not change it from week to week in terms of your routine, so not much will change. It'll be feet up at night, watch the games, and get ready for training tomorrow.
Well, good luck to you. As you know, I'm not a Yeah, take the dog for a walk and make sure. And by the way, whatever you do, feed the dog. I don't want the dog biting you and suddenly you're out of the semi-final and I'm losing my hard-earned tenner that I've got on the Jambos to win. Anyway, apart from that, good luck in the semi-final to you. We thoroughly enjoyed your chat today. Fingers crossed it's a cracker. And of course, Celtic Aberdeen. We will talk about that on Friday's show as well. Later on tonight, good luck to Celtic and Rangers in their Europa League matches. The coefficient will be enhanced if we can get good victories from both sides on that as well. So from Tam, who has suggested that we do a Bam Pot special, that would be fantastic, because what we would do is we'd get Roughie to take down all the pictures in his room. We'd then tunnel into the next room, which is the boudoir, and then it really would be a Bam Pot special, I can tell you that. Anyway, from Tam, from Stevie, from Roughie and myself, Peter Martin, to all the decent football fans who have joined our football family, thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit